Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful, we summons you. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح لا إله إلا الله. There's only one God. God bless America. God bless this planet.
All right, welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange. We greet you all with the greetings of peace, paradise, and prosperity. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That is universal greetings of peace and blessings to our beloved audience who's tuned in on New Freedom Exchange and also on the international page, international platform, United Media Group, Facebook page. We ask that you all share this live stream and we can all benefit from this exchange that's about to take place. But how's everything going with you, but Deen?
Everything's good. Again, we've been sharing this call, this universal call, the perfect call, the call that establishes the return to our human excellence as servants of God. So we're thankful to share that during this week of the new Declaration of Independence. And what a week it has been so far. We're about halftime now. We're at the midpoint of our exchange. So we had a dynamic discussion last night. I'm sorry I couldn't stay on with you all, Bilal, but I heard y'all was rocking, man.
It was rocking with the intergenerational exchange with Imam Kashif from the Masjid Warith Deen, Mohammed in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and our beloved brother Shadi Aki. For those who don't know, Shadi Aki is an artist for cultural expression and one of the founding pioneer of what they call the Sunnah music or Islamic hip hop. So we had that generational exchange, which took us far into a dialogue about, again, and claiming of our inheritance in reference to us as brothers, as men, reclaiming our responsibilities with our families and within our communities, because we cannot have a healthy community without having a healthy family. And we also touched upon a little bit about mental health and self-care, which is a big thing in the African American community as a whole, and it's not being talked about as much. It's starting to be talked about as much, but as far as us as African American men, we don't really talk about our traumas and the things that bother us or concern us. So we'll have a part 2 to that discussion, because this is also, briefly, this is the what they deem to be called the Minority Mental Health Month, the month of July. As we know, I think that this is not to be restricted to a month. However, this is what has deemed to be Minority Health Month. So we want to have our next installment coming down the pipeline will be an exchange in reference to mental health awareness and self-care.
Absolutely. And so tying that in with Declaration of Independence, getting our mind straight, getting our mind focused, and clear on what is our attachment or what is our responsibility to this nation and to our country, claiming it as our own and developing our life and our plans on the soil. And so I think on the first, we did go over the first part of the Declaration of Independence. I don't know if we want to continue the second part where they go over the different grievances. But if we decide that or not, I do want to also welcome those who are joining us for the first time. I see my dear sister, Rashida Khalifa. Excellent. Assalamu alaikum to you, dear sister, and all those who are joining us for the first time. Like, share, and subscribe, as they say. Also, we have our dear brother who's going to join us in a moment, Imam Rashad, who was a member of the Dawah class of Imam Deputy Mohammed. So we welcome him as well. He's going to come on shortly. We're going to also play a short clip. How did you describe it, Bilal? A flashback?
Oh, a flashback, a throwback.
Throwback, yeah.
This is a throwback to jar our memories and to jar Imam Rashad's memory, if you can recollect, and jar our memories, because in essence it's a throwback, but it's also a flash forward, what they call a flash forward, because even though this particular lecture occurred more than what do you say, like, what is it,
16 years,
16 years ago?
Yep.
16 years ago. What is said in this lecture that we're about to show in this particular clip of this lecture for 8 minutes is significant to what this theme is for this week, but most importantly, what the today is, and also just in general going forward. So it's an appetizer to the opening of this discussion.
Excellent. So I guess we won't do the second half of the Declaration of Independence.
No. Well, maybe later, maybe tomorrow, but.
Right. Yeah. Because it's funny because I heard someone do an audio version of it, and as I was listening, as I was driving, I said the same thing that they were addressing, that we were complaining about against the Britain is similar to what we as a people are discussing about, our grievances on the things that we're dealing with today. I also see our dear brother Bari on the line as well. Alhamdulillah.
No, yeah, he's here. He's here.
So welcome. I also had, just in case, a caveat to the Declaration of Independence was also the new flag for the Nation of Islam. I had a write-up on that, but we'll have that in the cut as well. So we'll bring that up if we have time as well near the end. But with no further ado, we can start the video. Let me bring that on in. See where I put it at. Okay, yeah, let's go with that one. All right, so this is a 2004. This was at the convention called the Dawah meeting by Imam Deputy Mohammed. It's about 8 minutes, and then we'll be back on afterwards. And by that time, we should have our dear brother Imam Rashad to join us, inshallah. That is, God willing.
Enjoy.
And sell him to get some money. And the master he sold him to had no interest in him except as a slave. So Frederick Douglass had to give him a Joe Louis right hook, left hook, and a right cross. Down he went in the road, and Frederick Douglass escaped and made it up to the north. That was the end of slavery for Frederick Douglass. Now, isn't that good to remember that one of your great leaders, one of the great leaders, he can be called the father of the freedom movement. One of our great leaders, he knocked out his master, left him in the road, and ran up north where there wasn't a law to keep blacks in slavery. He freed himself, didn't he? Thank you, Frederick Douglass. It's very important for our future life and growth that we do not separate ourselves from our people. Don't do that. You're a Muslim, you separate yourself from your Christian brother. You see yourself as an adversary, see them as your adversary. No, they are our brothers and sisters, and more than once. They are brothers and sisters in humanity. They are brothers and sisters in our life as people descendant from African parents. They are our brothers and sisters as people oppressed in these United States. Don't you know suffering brings you together as one family? We have a common history of suffering with those Christians. And that common history of suffering have made us one brother, one family, one people in suffering. And suffering has determined what our spirit wants. They want the same thing we want. They want to establish their soul in dignity. They want to establish their life in honor. They want to become productive and not have to look at themselves and our history and be downhearted. But be uplifted when we look at the new picture. African descendants now trying to build a new society in America in their name, New Africa. Yes. Soon as Reverend Jackson heard it, he endorsed it. And he sent word out among the Christian leaders that he associated with. He said, we accept that. New Africa. We support that. Praise be to Allah. Now they're waiting to see what we're going to do with it. And they're ready to join the effort. But they want to see the effort. They don't want us just to talk about it. They want to see it. And we're going to keep building on it until it's on 6 o'clock news. And people are coming from Europe, from Japan, from Africa, from all around the world, coming here asking the immigrations or the passport agent when they go through the passport, have their passport checked. I came here to see that area called New Africa. With masjids and minarets, and with schools bigger than the masjids. And with industry bigger than the school. Yeah. Little things create big things. Oh, yes. And we know the spirit of a true believer is a big thing, but it comes in a little picture. Little picture. But if it feeds education, and if it feeds production, industry, whoa, look at the big things it can produce. That's how it happened before. That's the way of life for mankind. That's how it's going to happen with us. It's going to happen. It's happening, and it's going to continue until it reaches its fulfillment. Establish people in honor, representing great life, great works, and great production. That's what I know is happening, and we're going to see it grow and grow year by year, generation after generation. Don't just look to now in our lifetime. No. There's a little story we learned in school from Jamil Diab in one of our lessons assignment. And Brother Donnell is here, and perhaps another student or two may be here from that class that I belonged to at that time under Professor Jamil Diab, who's still living. He's in Tempe, Arizona, and I promised my son I'm going to take him to see him soon. I hope it'll be very soon. He's in good shape now. He's an old man. He's older than I am, that's for sure. But he's in good shape. So anyway, I'll come back to the age, because I want to leave a word with you again on the age. That lesson said, Garasna Fayad Rasul. We plant now, they will harvest later what we plant. And the answer was given to a youngster who asked the old man. Old man was planting palm tree, date tree. And the youngster said to the old man, so old man, why you plant this tree? You will never live to eat from it. And that's the answer the old man gave the youngster. You don't know. He first said, they planted so we could eat. We are planting so they can eat. Meaning those that will come after. Yes. Isn't that a beautiful picture of how we should live? So we are not doing this for our generation only, for the day. We are doing this for the generations to come. And we are doing it for that so that it stands forever. For as long as Allah permit life to be on this earth, we are doing it for it to stand forever. We have to get out of this whole season thing, this whole style of today thing. Taking your religion to be a style or fashion. And you just join it for a season. For as long as you're happy thinking about it, having fun. I remember a song, Laguna, Laguna, lying in the sun and having fun. What a Laguna, crazy. Crazy person, lying in the sun and having fun. Life is not lying in the sun and having fun. Life is growing up and producing. So we're not doing this for a season. It's not a style for us, a fad. No, this is forever.
Back. Deen, you're muted, man. You're muted, bro. You're muted.
All right. Welcome back. I'm here.
All right, Mujahideen, man. That was powerful, man.
Absolutely. I mean, as they all are. So, is our dear brother, if he's ready, he could show his video. If he's ready. Okay. Excellent. So we'll bring him in. Imam Rashad. Alaikum. No, you good.
Wa alaikum Salaam. How you brothers doing?
Doing good. Alhamdulillah.
You know, I knew you were gonna play that clip. I just was afraid of which part was going.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, welcome to New Freedom Exchange. Happy to have you on with us this through part of this series. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, what did you think about that? As far as what the man was addressing, the seriousness of our religion, our life here.
Yeah.
Can you give us? Oh, I guess before we go to that, to what he said, maybe give us a little backdrop of what you were doing there. You were on stage, a younger
What was
version
I
of
doing?
yourself.
Well, at that time, you know, we were. I think I had been in Imam Muhammad's class for about a year, and at that time, he had expressed that he wanted those of us who really had showed seriousness in regards to study of his language. He wanted us to present, and I think at that time, I don't. I think at that time we were. You know, Imam would give us roles or assignments to kind of execute in class. I think by that time that was the case. I know definitely within the next year we were doing other things like teaching Arabic and stuff like that because there were adults that were brought in. So I think by that time Imam Muhammad had kind of identified uh, the serious ones, and
Establishes the
yeah.
return to our.
Oh, I thought that was somebody else. So so I can't remember details, but I know he wanted us to speak, and it was myself, and I don't know if you can see on his left, Sister Khadija Sadiq Muhammad. Behind him was Sister Rashida Aziz, and then on the other side, I was behind Halima Aziz. So Halima and Rashida, I'm sure you all know their sister, and so that's what it was. And I remember we got together the night before. And we were kind of, you know, we were young, man. I mean, oh my Lord. So it was like, what are we going to talk about? You're not prepared. So yeah, I do remember that vividly. And I remember the young people in the crowd and stuff like that. And I remember the spirit of the audience. Those were good days, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speak to that about the spirit of the audience, right? The pioneers looking at what the man was looking at. You know, I guess his fresh crop of students, preparing them, for our community.
Well, I think that the spirit of the older members, the pioneers, to put it in the best way, like you said, the pioneers, I think that they were very much excited. They were very happy. They were very pleased. And, you know, we can understand it. These are the ones who made the choice to leave Christianity or whatever sacrifice they went through to become Muslim. And, you know, we've had a lot of challenges as a community. So I think what I always registered from them was just the joy and comfort in the fact that there was serious. There was a generation coming behind them that was serious and was taking this life serious and were committed to moving it forward. Just in general, not just us four who are on the stage, but in general. So that same kind of spirit, the strength of it was there. I remember that day, Imam Muhammad Sadiq, may Allah forgive me sins and grant him paradise. I remember that day giving a big hug. And I can just remember the pride, you know what I mean? Just, you know, just from that generation, you know, those guys, they're like, they're soldiers, you know what I mean? They just had a spirit that was unique in and of itself. So, you know, the love that came from them, males and females, when they saw what the younger people were about, you know, very strong.
So speak to that today, because I mean, it seemed like there's been a gap. That's what we were trying to address yesterday.
A disconnect. You know, a disconnect between the generations. You know, you talk about people like age of Imam Muhammad Sadiq, and those who come from the first resurrection or that first womb, if you would. There's been a level of disconnectivity, you know, in our communities in terms of that age bracket, or what they call baby boomers, the baby boomer generation, or even the silent generation, which is like 75 and up. But many of the baby boomer generation to people like myself and Mujahideen, who are the millennials, millennials, and then we have the generation Z, you know, the 16-year-olds up to like maybe late 20s, maybe 30s. So those generation, you know, there's a disconnect. So can you speak to that, and why is that, and what's going on?
Yeah, so that's a to me that the answer has several components. I think that I think that when we look at our parent generation, I know your father Mujahideen. I don't know him by name. I know him by face, but I know your father Bilal from his, just his social media and just his since him again for him too. May Allah forgive him the sins and grant him paradise.
I mean,
We know his strong spirit as a student of the Imam. He actually would make me laugh, man. Them guys would get on the internet. He's like, look, I'm not even gonna argue. And I like that. I haven't grown to that level yet. I'll be on the fight. But so I think for them, like one thing my mother had told me, my father and my stepfather, they came in the first, but my mother came in 75. And I remember talking to her about, I forget, it was something regarding the community and Islam. And she was like, she said, you have to remember, we actually grew up and we actually thought Santa Claus was real. And for me, when she said that just, it hit me hard because I never once thought Santa Claus was real. So I think that for our parent generation, not only those who came in, my mother's probably in her 60s now, but even the generation before her, they actually, they had to come from they came from a whole, a totally different world where, my father-in-law says, I was called nigger every day. Like we didn't experience that. They grew up in the church, believing Jesus Christ was the Son of God, but having problems with it, etc. So I think their relationship to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then more specifically for what we're talking about in regards to your question with Imam Muhammad, they were literally liberated. Like they have the experience of being free. And I think a lot of us who were born after 1975, I'm using this term, but I don't mean it to be completely negative. But we're spoiled to a certain degree. We don't really know how good we have because we just take it for granted. Like my name was never, Wallace Bunch. You know what I'm saying? I was Rashad Abdurrahman from birth. I never believed in Jesus Christ. I never believed in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. I mean, we just didn't have those experiences. So there's something about when you grow up with something. I guess it's similar to growing up with a certain amount of wealth. You don't really appreciate it as much as the person who had to earn it. And it takes something else to really get you to appreciate it. So that kind of, using that analogy, I can kind of segue into the other part. I think that a lot of, just to stick with that analogy, I think a lot of successful business owners, what they do, or what I've heard of them doing with their children who kind of grow up in privilege, what they do is they make an opportunity in the family business. They allow for that child to be on the floor in the factory or whatever the business is. So the child has to kind of sweat to really appreciate work and to appreciate what the parents have achieved. So I think that should have and still should happen with our, like you all mentioned, millennials and Generation Z. It's probably too late for millennials, to be honest.
Too late. It's too late for. Too late.
Really,
Too late for.
unless you actually want to do it. Like it has to be something that you really want to do.
No, that's why we join your class, man. Yeah, I mean, you got to straighten us out, man.
So I think it's something that you really have to want to do, and I think that, and it gives you another, it gives you an appreciation for what was, because when you're working on the floor, you said, okay, this is what it takes to get what I enjoy, what I have. So what didn't happen, what I think didn't really happen during Imam Muhammad's during the time of Imam Muhammad, there wasn't enough effort made to really give our younger generations access to Imam Muhammad. I think that's what we're really dealing with. If you look at, for the most part, I think Imam Wazir Ali out of Houston, Texas, who's an Imam and leader, I think he's an exception. But I think for the most part, and like you, Brother Mujahideen, brother, I think you all, you got some pockets of exceptions. But I think that for the most part, the leaders of this community who have a real strong influence are those who Imam Muhammad directly helped. So be it myself, be it Imam Suleiman, Imam Mansour, even Imam Safi Rab, Imam Tariq Najiyallah, like all of them went to Syria. Sister Shahida Sharif. And that was a program facilitated by Imam Muhammad. And then, of course, myself, Sister Khadija, Sadiq, Muhammad, we went in Imam Muhammad's class. So all of these, a huge amount of people, individuals, I should say, persons, who are really holding a leadership role today are those directly affected by Imam Muhammad. And even when you look at an Imam Wazir and what the excellent things they're doing, his mentor was Imam Qasim, who also, may Allah forgive him his sins and grant him paradise. He also was directly influenced or directly under Imam Muhammad. Why am I saying it like that? Because that really, I thought about that for a long time. I said, man, so if it wasn't for Imam Muhammad himself doing the actual labor of ensuring future leadership, where would we be in terms of, you know what I mean? Because a huge amount of people who are in leadership roles today, it's the result of a direct effort of Imam Muhammad. That's what I'm saying. And I think that is I'm not saying this to be, I'm just saying this to be honest, not to, put out a critical spirit or to be negative or just bash. But I think that does reflect on the leaders of our community. I don't think enough was done to facilitate the younger generations getting in close contact with Imam Muhammad. So, because me, for example, I grew up in Chicago, and I didn't hear Imam Muhammad. You know what I mean? In Chicago, it wasn't until I was actually in his classroom that I really heard Imam Muhammad. And I think that what we are bearing witness to in terms of what you all mentioned, or you mentioned, Bilal, in terms of the disconnect, I think this is the result. Because those of us, and you have a few exceptions, like, let's say, for instance, again, Imam Rasul, may Allah forgive him his sins, grant him paradise. Him, Brother Sharif Abdul Malik, who's here in Atlanta. You have a few exceptions of young people who, in some way or another, were directly, they were able to, through their parents, mainly, all of the stories I hear is mainly through their parents, they were able to get at least a strong amount of access to what Imam Muhammad. They're like you all, they're serious. You see what I'm saying? So Sharif is serious. Rasul was serious. You got another brother, Rashid Mu'min out of he's from St. Louis, but I think he's in Chicago now. You got several others that through their own, Allah blessed them through one way or another to get access to the Imam through his lectures and whatnot. And they have a particular, or we all have a particular mindset in terms of, this discussion itself is an example. Like we claim America, nevertheless we have our free mind. We see value in the community. There's just a certain thought process that we have that's a direct result of being influenced by Imam Muhammad one way or the other. And I think that, again, the lack of that, or just the, that because that hadn't happened as frequently as it should have, or as much as it should have, we suffer. I'm in Atlanta, and you can see, and again, I mean, we have to be able to talk and not be, what do you call it? Children get in their feelings, man. We're too grown for that. I mean, we're the young people, but I'm like 38 or 37, like 5 children, man. So we got to talk. And a lot of the young people here, they've expressed this to me, like, man, we never heard this before, such and such. So, and you can see the effect of it. You can really see the effect of it. And it's not just here. It's in Chicago, where I'm from. It's in Milwaukee, where I was. So that I mean, I know I'm taking a long time, but that's a thick question you asked. And I think, yeah. It's
a loaded question. And it leads me to my other point to add to this discussion, is that when I'm in conversation with other young adults my age, who are coming from my age bracket, and they, all these other movements that have birthed out of that have come up, that sprung up. You have a lot of scholars from who I would say affiliates to our community. They don't really identify with our community, but they have hung out with people from our community. So they come to Eid, they'll come. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to mention who those specific people are. I think we know who they are, and they have established their own they have to establish their own platforms and different things like that. And a lot of the young people from our community, or who are affiliated to our community, they have went to that direction, right?
Right.
And they totally they don't have a. So when Imam Muhammad's name come up, they don't have no connectivity. Like you said, there's no connection. It doesn't ring bells to them. Versus what they're seeing and what's from over there is more like what they want to hear, what they like to hear. So my question is, what is the solution to this disconnect? What is the solution? Because we can talk all day and pontificate about what we love to. Some of us love to do is pontificate over these matters, but we really got to stay to the bottom of what's the root, and then from the root, what is the solution? So what is your take, Imam Rashad, and from your experience with the Imam directly, because you sat with him directly and you heard from him directly, from that experience and where you are now as a husband, married, in Imam, and you have business, you're in Atlanta, you're seeing a big community. From your experience, what is the solutions to the disconnect?
Well, I think that the solution to the disconnect is simply doing what hasn't been done. So we have to make available the language of Imam Muhammad. Now that does come with, that's not just first of all, Generation Z, they don't know what a tape is.
Wait, we're in the podcast era. We're in a different era. Remember, Shah? My father we have a whole bunch of cassettes underneath the bed that he later transcribed to MP3s, and CDs we purchased from Brother Wallace and stuff like that. So when you say make it accessible to Generation Z, how can we do that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. So if I see a bunch of tapes, I'm excited, but my 7-year-old, he's like, "What is that?" So I think it happens on multiple levels. So one level would be, like our class, for instance, it was the youth Dawah, and Imam was very explicit. I'm training you all to teach Al-Islam. This is how you should present it. So some of us have to just be teachers. And, I'm saying this with the utmost respect, and I'm trying to be careful. But at the same time, I'm speaking like we're kind of talking in a very brotherly fashion too. But I'm aware that other people are watching. So, forgive me if I don't sound too polished. But I had a brother recently, several. I've heard this before. Like, I think that we should just meet as a community and just study, transcripts of Imam Muhammad. That's not really. That has to be with a group that wants to do that. That's not the Dawah. Exactly. So, I don't think. I think that actually, because when we take a position that it's sort of like we don't want to step into a certain seat or a certain office and accept the responsibility to teach, then that kind of says that your teacher didn't do a good job. So it's actually disrespectful to your teacher. So I think that we definitely need men and women who can simply represent and do the work of Dawah, continue the messaging of Imam Muhammad in the community and in the public at large. That's one. I do, however, think that we need circumstances to study Imam Muhammad's lectures. So we do need to have those tapes transcribed and those CDs transcribed. We do need to have that material compiled, and we do need to have it studied by people who have a serious interest in that. So that's another thing, and that's what's happening. So I know you all are familiar with my class that we just started on my program. We're forming. What happened?
No, go ahead.
You good? Go.
We formed an institute. Right now, we just call it Quran Study and Leadership. But I'm going to come up with a more fancy name when I can think of. But the aim, we have two interests. mainly. The first is to study the Quran in the language of Imam Muhammad, meaning that Mujahideen has joined us, and he's really, I consider him though we've all began together, I consider him an advanced student because I've listened to your lectures, and I'm, I kind of, when someone knows something and when they, so he knows I kind of emphasize certain things, and this is what Imam Muhammad told us in the first. I wasn't at the first class, but I got the transcript and read it, and I follow that discipline. I try to, which is this, don't bring anything from anyone else. You don't want to. If I ask you what is Ar-Rahman, don't tell me what you read from this particular tafsir or that particular tafsir. Not that those things have no value. That's not
right.
The point. But the point is, I need to make sure that you learn what we say it is. What Imam in this particular case, what Imam Muhammad says it is. And the next level is now putting Muhammad's language in conversation with other language. You know what I'm saying? And that's where scholarship comes in. But first, we want to make sure that you have access to an understanding of how Imam Muhammad presented these things. So that's one. So we go to the Quran, we go, and I think he actually said this. No, this was in another Dawah meeting for the Young Conference. Maybe that following year, he discussed what we were doing in the class, which is study the Quran word for word. Step 1. Step 2, insight into the language. So that's what we try to do. I try to go through a select amount of surahs, verse by verse, or ayah by ayah, word by word, then discuss the terms in the implications of in the language, like Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. This tomorrow, inshallah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Things like that. And we look at, as we do that, we look at how Imam Muhammad taught these verses. And then the next step is to go into actual lectures where Imam Muhammad dealt with the whole surah. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, like we're on Al-Fatiha. So, we have several. Actually, we have a lot of classes where Imam dealt with Al-Fatiha. I chose one, and then I chose the 99 Imams Ramadan session. And then, but we just read what he said on Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And of course, I encourage everyone to just read the material. But we go through it kind of line by line, discussing what Imam Muhammad said. And then our next series, we're looking at Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, of course, we're dealing with the lecture that he had. It's on YouTube. I think either Bilalian speaks or WD Muhammad, somebody, I think WD Muhammad speaks is the same as Bilalian speaks. Somebody else, they posted it. So we're going to look at that and just do the same process. Remember, Muhammad has a lecture on the day of religion. And so we go through that. So that's one. And then, of course, I incorporate like grammar and other things. And I try to give proofs. I try to show them proof, to show them support for why, to support how we understand it. So it's more than just this is what Imam Muhammad said. We want to have the proof from the text. So we want to take a more scholarly or academic approach. But being careful, I'm very cautious of how other persons have presented Imam. Like, I'm gonna show you where he got it from. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. Because we would have never known how to even look for it, how you said it. So I'm cautious of that kind of intellectual arrogance. What my interest is for people who to have a foundation and an appreciation for the Imam, and having an ability to know and to stand upon their acceptance of his language with faith. And if they're presenting it, to present it with know-how. Like, I have someone very dear to me. He knows a lot that Imam Muhammad said, but he just cannot support it at all. It's like, and you can't do that when you're teaching people. You can't say Imam Muhammad said X, and they say, how you know it's true? It's true because Imam Muhammad said X. Like, that's circular. So you have to be able to articulate. That's articulating it is when you can support it.
That's what we're doing. It's a year-long program. I actually have 7 years built out. I want the students to be able to complete 3. We're going to open it up to the broader community soon, inshallah. And maybe for the other 4, they can choose one. And then we have some other things that we're working on. I'm working on some books. Again, one of the things that I've just picked up here in Atlanta, but it was always an interest of mine since back in the early days. We have a lot of people take shahada at our masjid. And a lot of people who, Atlanta masjid is unique in that. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to throw in a caveat to that part. I mean, you're touching on a lot of things, Imam Rashad. So I didn't want to touch upon the shahada part and the retainment. Because studies show, I mean, the statistics show that there's a problem with retainment because we can give shahadas. Say, for instance, Australia. Australia has a poor job. It was being said, poor job in retaining Muslims who convert in Australia. They just leave them there with a Quran, perhaps with a little pocket Quran, and that's it. And say, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. You give them, you hug them. You know what I'm saying? And that's about it. I mean, I've seen shahadas take place with young people. I'm going back to the young people. I'm going back to the young adults now, because that's really what what's in my mind right now. When young people come take shahada at Atlanta Masjid or any masjid in our association or community, what happens to them after? Because we have like, say for instance, young people who come in off the streets. They don't have a sense of direction. They just maybe came and heard you or Imam Suleiman or Imam Mansour or whomever, Dr. Wazir give a khutbah, whatnot. But there is no what about the retention? What are we doing to retain them? What is the follow up? You understand what I'm saying? Like, are we being respectful of the fact that they're coming from a different experience? We're being patient with them as the Prophet did, because the Prophet had to be patient with his companions. Yeah. His companions came from all walks of life. They weren't holy men and women. You understand what I'm saying? They weren't all. Come on now, let's get crazy about Umar. Was ruthless, man. Some of these guys were ruthless. You understand? So it's like, how are we retaining these young people who are coming into the masajids?
Forgive me, y'all. My wife keeps just so at Atlanta Masjid, I would actually, that's a good question. I would like to know what's happening in other places like Houston, how they're doing it. I know at Atlanta Masjid, we had a good brother.
Yeah, how are they doing in Atlanta now? Talk to about Atlanta.
We had a brother, name was Rashad Fields. He was really good. He was doing basically the classes for the new shahadas. He did move because of, I think it was a career move, actually. So, it's hard to find help. So we have had a void there for a while. But I think that he was doing Salaam 101 for new shahadas, but the Arabic was still available for people who join. We do have a brother Khalid Khan, who's very good on books. So he'll give him the books. A lot of new shahadas that we do see them come to the masjid a lot, and we work with them. But that's an area that we've actually been in discussion about how to improve, because what you're saying, I mean, it's just a problem for Muslims. Period. Retainment of new shahadas. And I think that one of the things that we lack, not in Atlanta particularly, I think this is all masajid. We don't have a communal. Like when you join the nation, you actually can become a member of this class and that class and join the free. It's more of a social thing, or not more of it, but it incorporates a social component. And I think for us, we're just Muslims who are also citizens of the country. So we just are living a normal life. So we don't really have that kind of safety net to hold people in like we would like to. But we do have classes. We actually are starting our classes back up. Faith Institute. And those were going on. We did take a pause for a while. So we're kind of tweaking things back just in terms of classes. But I do want to go back to another thing. So I have that, because that's a part of what we want to do for our institute. I'm talking about the one that I have. We do want to help or train or prepare and qualify, I should say, individuals who can help with the dawah and can also help with leadership roles, but also just help in community roles. I think that's the beautiful thing of Al-Islam, which does separate us from, for instance, the nation as we lived it. The obligation to hold the community together doesn't just rest on the institution or the house of worship. Anybody in the community can take up a responsibility. So if you notice, like, I don't know if y'all are familiar with, I mean, it's been going on. You know, you have this one sister who she goes to our masjid. She does the dope Muslim woman. And then you have
podcast. Yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with. Yes.
As a cause. And she's, you know, I mean, she's a good sister from what I know of her. I mean, but she's not like a scholar in training or anything like that. She just took up a call, and it's beautiful. Like, that's kind of the freedom that we're allowed in the religion.
Absolutely.
I think it's needed. And I think so. I'm saying the same thing. And it's some other persons. We had some sisters who did like matchmaking, some brothers who've done some mentorship programs. She comes to mind because she kind of posts a lot. It's a lot of material. She has a lot of content. But dealing with relationships, I know that's the groove they've been in lately, relationships and trauma, etc. So I think that for the retainment aspect, as well as other things, helping the school out, growing in business, I think we need to see more persons besides the imam, in the sense that we got to take a lot of burden off of the imams.
Ooh, remember, Shah, you're on point, beloved, because that's what I was just telling.
That's what I was going to tie that in earlier.
We were just telling that. We were just talking about the aspect of there's a two-way street. The leadership has a responsibility to the congregation, to the congregants, and the congregants have responsibilities to the leadership and responsibilities to the community.
Definitely.
It's a two-way street. We're burning our imams out. And and that's when the mental health piece come in, and the self-care piece come in, because a lot of people in our communities, unfortunately, especially a lot of the older generation, they sacrificed so much and they went through so much trauma. They saw so many things, and they were doing a lot of fisabilillah for the benefit of the community, benefit of us, this generation right here that's having this conversation. But on the flip side, look on the flip side of that coin. The flip side of that coin was that a lot of the families too took a hurt. You know, the males were out so much that
definitely
they kind of neglected their family life. You know what I'm saying? And led to the children being displaced in terms of, you know, they just out here doing crazy, you know, and the women being hurt and going through domestic abuse and all types of craziness. So it's like, we really need to like have that type of discussion too, because like you're saying, you know, everything doesn't rely on the email.
Right. There's another sister. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's coming to mind now. There's another sister here. She does the Muslim Mix, and that's the name of her organization. But I think they've done some stuff online too, especially, you know, a lot of people are doing things, and it also helps, you know, and from what I know of how she approached it in particular, and I do want to add this, you know, you don't ever want to disclude the imams. You want to say, hey, brother, imam, I want to do this program. And most of the good imams, they'll get behind you. Now, if it's a bad imam who's like, no, you can't breathe, you know, and you have to really consult your heart. Me personally, and I don't like to openly advocate rebellion, but I wouldn't let anyone convince me to do something other than what my spirit tells me needs to happen.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So everyone has to make the assessment of where they are in their local situations. But I know here we have a lot of persons who take up responsibilities. And, you know, it's something, speaking of Sharif, man, he mentioned that to me one time. I think it was some brother he was telling me about. The brother was in a bad situation, or a sister. And he was saying, he was complaining to himself, like, man, why don't these brothers get serious and da-da-da. He said he had to stop himself. And he realized that, you know, these brothers are 60-some-odd years old and older. So the job of patching this hole up or addressing this community issue, it doesn't really rest with them anymore. And that's not really fair to put that on them.
It's not fair to put it on us, because I'm going to call on the other side of the coin, man, Rashad. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. Well, on the other side of the coin, though, you know, I can speak from my experience dealing with that generation. You know what I'm saying? And bad, what we call bad imams, or just bad people. I don't even say bad imams, just say bad people in general in this community, particularly, is that they give you they're quick to say, oh, it's you guys, young people, you guys got to do it, or you guys are failing. Blah blah blah. They're handing over a ship. Remember, Sean will be honest. They're handing over a ship that has a lot of holes in it, Aki. And you're expecting me, Deen, and others to like drive the ship, but we gotta patch up and drive the ship at the same time. Like, that's a lot of work.
We'll go back there.
That's a really good point. I think that this is where brothers like Imam Wazir will come into play. I haven't even done. I mean, a lot of times. I mean, I've really been having in the back of my mind to reach out to him. I kind of see him as a how can I put it? He's really like a forerunner of the young man, you know, for one of the better.
Imam Rashad, if you could turn your hand off your mic, if you turn it sideways.
Can y'all hear? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's right there.
I kind of see him as a forerunner for. I'm in my room trying to relax. I didn't want y'all to see my bed. Though. Let me see if I can.
That's all right. No, it's all right. It's okay.
Soon we'll be down there with the studio, man. We invite you in the real studio. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what I do know, and this is an interesting thing I noticed about him.
Yes.
Not from him directly, but from the people around him, the other young people. They all speak highly of him. You know, like, you know, brothers, you say, well, look, man, how's Imam such and such? Like, in the public, they may seem okay, but when it's just you and him over coffee, they're like, man, he do this, so I don't like him that much. But none of them, all of them are like, that's my guy. You need to get with him. And I think that says a lot. I don't know if I know any imam who has that kind of reputation among his people. I'm talking about the other imams that work with him. And I think that he's one of the first. A lot of times we give that credit to Imam Pleman with the succession from Imam Pleman to Imam Mansour, which also is noteworthy. But I think Imam Qasim did it a little bit before with Imam Wazir. And, you know, they have a situation down there that I think we should give attention to, but also what Imam Pleman did. But I think that, you know, you got brothers like Abdullah Rashid, Brother Tyree, Brother Hanif, you know, you can, like you and I, we can kind of reach out to them. So I'm saying that to say, for that issue that you brought up about the holes in the ship, I think that I think we have answers in our community. If we would consult those brothers, and really get help to see, okay, how do we work this thing? How do we do it? Because it has to happen. It has to happen. I do know some cities where the imam wanted to step down, and the brothers were like, "No, we don't want to take it," because the same, just to use your language. I'm not, you know, throwing a stone at you. They were like, "No, this shit is too late. I don't want it." But that command is not going to be alive forever. So then what? So I think that, you know, for us, a lot of things we do, we just step out on faith, and you know, we also are brotherhood. So I know the brothers that I mentioned. I know myself. If there's any way that we can offer help and assistance, it may not be what you need because, of course, we're in different cities and stuff. But you know, we're together. We should see ourselves together. One of the things that I mentioned, Imam Hanif, who runs Camp Khalil, one of the things he says a lot is that we got to be joined at the hip, and I accept it. I think that that's true. We got to be joined at the hip in our spirit. But I did want to mention something. I'm sorry, I'm going back to the other question that you asked about what we're doing in solutions. So it's not just me. I know Sister Khadija Siddiq Mohammed. I know she also has a class. That,
she does.
Yeah, my wife is in the class, and my wife just loves it. My wife loves it. That says a lot to me. My wife is learning a lot. You know, she's memorizing a lot of Quran. She's studying. I don't know all of the particulars of the class, but I know, like, for what's coming up, my wife, I think she's entered into her second year. And she's, like, just bought a bunch of Frederick Douglass books, and she's studying the Ramadan session. No, I'm sorry, pardon me. The Savior Day, 2007. They, you know, their church, my wife is transcribing. I think that's one of the things that they encourage to do is transcribe the lectures. And you know, it's just I think I mentioned this on another form. I think it's a beautiful thing. So that's a program too, from another person who's a sincere student of the Imam. For me, it's a beautiful thing because I think I remember one weekend I was doing my class. My wife was in my class. Then she left my class and went straight to a class here where she was studying Tajweed from one of the individuals who had studied this series. And then later on that evening, she was transcribing for Sister Khadijah's class. So I think we have resources. I think it was in Islam's climate for business success. Imam Muhammad said that one of the big problems for minority communities is that they're not informed. He said it's mainly they're not informed about what's going on with one another. Like we're not informed about what's happening. That I'm gonna put it in my language. We don't know the resources that we have amongst us. There are a lot of good things that are happening, and I think that we should start there. And what I mean by starting there, I'm saying to the Generation Z's, the millennials, and you all, like through this type of form, let's make individuals aware of what we do have. Like I said, I'm going to open my class up very soon, and we have mainly young people. I think we do have a couple, but they're like we have maybe 2 or 3 older members. I'm one of the oldest young people in there. So that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to do that.
Excellent. This is New Freedom Exchange, also live streaming on United Media Group, which is our international platform with our brothers throughout the diaspora. And we have Imam Rashad from the Imam W. Muhammad Dawah class, Reflections, during this series of the New Declaration of Independence series. We've been at it since January 1st. We're going to the 7th. And it's just really a launch to what we're about to really get into in the near future. We also gave a shout out to our dear brother, Sharif Abdul Malik, and We Buy Black. They're also introducing New Africa August. The whole month of August, they're going to highlight different speakers, different presenters on how we should plan our life going forward. We know we have February as the History Month, Black History Month, where we reflect and recall those pioneers, those soldiers, those cooks, those teachers, scholars, leaders in our history who brought us up to today. Well, We Buy Black is introducing this year New Africa August for us to focus on things we can do to build the future. With that being in mind, Brother Bari mentioned, and this question for you, Brother Imam. Oh, here you go. Bari on the scene. He said, what do you think about the impact the Imam had on this community in terms of being a person that not only taught, but set the example as a leader and himself put some business initiative forward constantly? He left a legacy in that area as well.
That's right. Yeah, I know Barry. Barry was down, but Barry is serious about that. So that's. I think that's the model that we should strive to keep alive among us. Meaning that, Imam Muhammad was he was our leader. He was our teacher. He was also a business person. I mean, I see Imam Muhammad as a complete human being. Imam Muhammad did abstract art and wrote poetry and wrote songs. I mean, that's amazing. And I think that, and of course, what Barry is mentioning, the business. So I think that is a model that we should continue to keep alive. How? For me personally, so I'm just using the school for example. What my vision is for the school. I want to address all of that. I don't want to just produce or have come out of our school model imams and scholars. I want that. Right. But I want I would like to have individuals. First of all, we want to study. We want our school to grow. And we're looking at what are we going to look at in the next 300 years, 500 years. And we want to add on departments for areas of study. So business is probably, I'm thinking of putting that on as the next component. So after we have the religious studies program built out, business would be the next one, because when Imam Muhammad was interviewed for I think this was the '05 Young Adult Conference, he was interviewed by one of the students, and he was asked, what area of study should your students go into in college? And he said business. So I want to put business as a component of it. And then, of course, the sciences, different forms of cultural expression, etc. So that's where we want to go. And I think that it starts now. I think, again, I'm naming a lot of people in the community. But I think a lot of those persons that I named, like Imam Wazir, myself, even Sister Anissa now, I'm told they have a restaurant they just opened. So to me, that's just excellent.
Yes.
I think that's excellent. And you have, and let me just say this while we're on the subject. I'm so thoroughly opposed to the language and the spirit that, oh, nothing is happening. I used to believe that, and I guess that's why I'm against it. I used to believe it. And I think that there are some drought. I mean, I was in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a drought area in terms of just like community, but nevertheless, there's a certain, I don't have the language to express it, but there's a certain amount of life once you come into it. Allah blesses you to feel things and to sense things that may not necessarily be right there present in front of you. So when you come alive, like the big wide field awaits the wide awake man. That's a good expression. When you really come alive to what Allah has done for us and is doing with us, you're not looking at the desert as desert. You're looking at it as an opportunity to build what's not there. Like, okay, let's run this channel of water to this desert. Let's plant these crops. Let's turn it into an oasis that's going to become in time Mecca that's going in time. Like, that's how you're thinking. So I think that we should really hold on to the description of the prophets and messengers as good news bringers. And then there's just certain things Imam Muhammad told us. Like, for instance, since my wife is studying the 07 Savior's Day, I'm reading it again too. And I don't want to misquote Imam Muhammad. There's an exact quote where he spoke. I'm going to paraphrase it about how we're going to grow in productivity and the expression of our moral life, etc. And he said, God has authorized me to tell you all this. And I'm personally studying the 04 Ramadan session now. That's my current study. And he starts off after the Jummah khutbah, the first session, he's speaking of how we're going to see the time is upon us where we're going to see the growth in our intellects, like you saw after the early following, during the time of the early following of the Prophet, when the Quran and the Prophet's teachings came to them. And I'm saying this with sincerity, like me as a person, I'm experiencing that with my own growth and understanding and putting together books. So, people, we it's not right. It's not a good thing, I should say, for us to, it's a cloudy day here in Atlanta, and therefore all of America is cloudy. That's not the way it goes. Not only it's a cloudy day now, but above the clouds, it's bright and sunny.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's happening on upper East Coast where you all are, let alone the Midwest, etc. So, we should be looking for life. We should have faith in what we were told, and that should be feeding us. That should really be feeding us. And I think that when we start to think like that and become thankful. I mean, gratitude is a heck of a thing for the spirit. I think Allah really shows us a lot of beauty. So right now, I see a lot of beauty in our community. So when I hear people say, "Oh, there's nothing," I don't even think, I wouldn't even go so far as to say there's nothing going on where they are. I think that something is wrong in their own thought process. Allah hasn't opened them up to see the beauty yet and to see what's really happening. And that's not to condemn them. I mean, they should pray for it or ask for it, but we got to get out of that mindset of, because I mean, what is it? Yeah. I don't want to go too far down that road, but I think there's a lot of beautiful things happening, and it's going to continue.
Well, you remember, Rashad, I mean, you got people too, who I think too, we got to understand some of these sentiments of these people who are saying there's nothing going on. Yes, they're wrong in the sense that they may be uninformed, and that's, that has multiple layers to it too, as to why they are uninformed. Yes. Through media, are we doing a good job? Are we doing a good job telling our story, telling what's going on in communities, right? I mean, are we supporting our institutions that we have, like the Muslim Journal, Time of the Mosque Hearers, and etc.? Are we supporting those type of institutions? Because if the institutions that we're setting up, they're meant to do several things, like the Imam said: culture, education, government, and what is the other one? What am I missing? I'm missing one.
Industry, business,
economics, which we just talked about. So no, but I'm saying, there's a level of discontent. And some are honest with the fact that their discontent is not so much they're complaining, because some people, you have to separate the complainers who just like to complain all day. And then there's some levels of discontent with people who have tried and attempted to build something, and perhaps they were sabotaged from the inside. I ain't talking about the outside. Forget about the people outside of our community. I'm talking about from the inside, people from our own ranks who we're praying next to every Friday or every day. We don't know if we can trust these cats. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. So it has scarred a lot of people. So when they come up with this level of discontent, they're coming. If you ask them why they're coming with a level of discontent, they may give you that side of the story, or they may just be complaining. So my thing is, certain people say we have to make hijrah. There's this thing of making hijrah, leaving your city to go somewhere else. I'm not against it. If you feel like you want to travel, make hijrah and find another place that you feel comfortable in your spirit and suit your needs, I'm all for it. But if everyone made hijrah to Atlanta, say for instance, everyone left New York to make hijrah to Atlanta, what would be left here in New York?
Correct.
Who's building here in New York? That's just an example. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, I
agree. I actually, I actually would like to move to New York. That's a place I
No, don't come up here. Don't come up here. You might.
It's like let them rock the Northeast. It's wide open.
Oh no, yeah, come up. That's sick of that. Yeah, come up.
I love that area. I love New York. I like the Delaware Valley.
Okay.
So I've always had in mind to move there. I wouldn't do it now. I don't recommend. I recommend Atlanta for young families. That if you don't have a lot of Muslim children and younger families in your area, then definitely come to Atlanta. Not for the school, but just because there's so many young families that are here. But I'm from Chicago, so I like Brick City. And I like the little hustle and bustle. Atlanta's a little slow for me. I'm talking about just the city. The city is also very interesting, and because there's a lot of African American progress. I do like that.
Yes, it is.
But I like the urban areas. But what I would say to individuals who are not satisfied with what's going on in their respective areas, I think they have to kind of I would recommend take some assessment and see what's really going on. Is it a situation where you want to be a worker and you can't work, you're not allowed to work? Like I have heard of imams who just cut out the opportunity to work and make a contribution. And then what's your plan B? What's your plan B? Like me, for example, I'm not, if I wasn't here, I would be doing what I'm doing somewhere else. And I refuse, like no one owns me. You know what I mean? But let's say if I'm not that person, I'm not a person who can really go off and do something on my own. I just really want to be a part of something that's already working, and I can't be a part of something that's here. I would find some place where I could be a part of something. So it all depends. In other words, I guess what I'm really what I'm really saying is, I would look at that complaint on a case by case basis. I would have to look at the individual making that complaint, because it doesn't. I remember when Suleiman called me, we talked, and this was when I was in Milwaukee, and he was like, well, what do you think about moving to Atlanta? Now he knew. I'm assuming that he knew what was about to happen. Imam Mansour was going to leave and whatnot. But I remember telling him I wouldn't move to Atlanta. I actually was going to move to Charlotte at the time, and I remember telling him, like, my position is, you got a strong situation in one city. You don't need to put everybody in that city. I'd rather go to another city, and build that up. And then we have multiple cities that we can point to. So me personally, I'm satisfied with, I don't take the credit. Well, I do take some credit because, I put in some help. I can't take more credit, like the capital T, for Atlanta because, Imam Pleeman and Imam Pasha and the pioneers of this city, they put in a lot to get it to where it is. I think myself and before me, Imam Suleiman, Imam Mansour, they did a lot to help retain young people. And that's still the case. But I think that there's a lot of work that can be done and it needs to be done across the country. And again, the big wide field awaits the wide awake man. Like for me, that's just how I see it. That's just how I see it. So I'm trying to skip around some things, but I hear some younger people make the case against, this imam, this way or that way, and that's fine. What are you gonna do? That's the way he is. Unless you're gonna get rid of him physically. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to get in the habit of wiping brothers out. So let's figure out plan B and let's build. Again, I help anybody that I can. I help anybody that I can. And even if we just met as brothers, we had a nationwide conference call and we just discussed strategies and points of emphasis. That'll be good. But I think that we're in a time, we're in these latter days. These latter days require everyone to invest in their own soul, make a contribution from the best of what's in their own soul. And we'd be surprised at the results.
Excellent. We don't want to hold you too much longer. Is there any questions or comments on the thread? Anybody have any questions for our dear brother, Imam Rashad? This is your time to get in. We had a couple people that was participating. I don't see any at the moment, but to your last point, that's one of our interests here with this tinyurl.com/it's crucial was an effort of similar interest where we were trying to get a pulse or an assessment from people wherever they are. What are their priorities? What are the things that they're doing in their community to actually formulate what you just suggested about a national call to prioritize to emphasize and to prioritize those things that we could assist each other in, or what are we doing in general? So yeah.
I think it's important. And I think that, when we take a step back and we look at what's really going on, I like to really, a part of seeing the beauty in things is knowing that, okay, Allah is moving this thing. And I thought about it, man, like we heard Minister Farrakhan speak today. So we have to think about it, man. 20 years from now, that movement is going to be totally different. Let's just say 10 years from now. But you have a lot of young people, that's their hero. They're members of the Nation of Islam. And for us, we have a different take because of the history, of course. But when we write, so, we kind of complain about African Americans not including the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we kind of complain about them not including Muhammad in how they write history and stuff. Well, we're going to be faced with the same thing. Because when we have to write books on Islam in America, do we leave out Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, just because of the history? But if we do that, we have to understand that there's thousands of people who we offend. So it's a maturity process. And the beauty to me of Imam Muhammad's language just, it's no comparison. They use his language, man. People, when we was in Milwaukee, like the ministers used to study Imam Muhammad's language. We caught him, but that's another study. I think with African American Muslims, the rise of Islam among African Americans, I think that we just have to get into the mix of things and see how we could have a positive impact on Muslims. Period. I'm speaking of African Americans particularly, but this is Muslims in general, but particularly for us. You know, there's a lot of good groups or good individuals. You just don't know. They didn't grow up like we did, with parents like we had. And they're not going to have that level of reverence. But I think our language is potent. And I think that if we have faith in our language, even if they don't join us, you'll hear our language in what they have to say and what they have to produce. That's how the life continues. The life will continue through the language and the spirit. And I was telling some brothers recently, this is just how I'm looking at it. You know, if we really are looking for growth of Islam in America, we got to strap on our seats to be prepared to see some stuff that may make us uncomfortable. Like I give you an excellent example. We're here in Atlanta, and our masjid, we may have between 3,000 to 5,000 African American associated with the masjid. But what we're going to do if we really want to get 300,000, we're going to have to get comfortable with the idea that we're going to need more than one Atlanta masjid. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to accommodate those numbers with what we have right now. So I think that, you know, there's a difference between, I'm just using that as an example. There's a difference between where we want to go and where we are. And I think that we don't really think about where we want to go. And everybody's not going to be a direct student of the Imam. We have to give our Imam a good future, like he said, and that's through business, that's through culture, that's through education, etc. One of the last points I want to make is we have to be. I think that we have to be aware of what's happening inside of our community, and I'm connecting this to the Minister Farrakhan thing. We don't want to make the followers of Minister Farrakhan our enemy, because Imam Mohammed actually said, he was speaking about the African American soul, and he was saying that Allah is with all of us, even of his followers, even with people who go to like Rastafari, and they're searching for something, because what was done to us was so profound in its impact on the soul of Black people. You can't blame a guy for being attracted to the language of the Nation of Islam as it is today. You can't really blame that person. You can understand it when you look at it from the broad perspective of our soul, and when you think about, okay, what is Allah really doing with us as a group? So I would say the same thing. In our association, we have to be patient with one another. We do have to take up issue with falsehood and things that are wrong. So, like you mentioned, the mosque, and I don't think we're mature enough for this yet, but who cares? You know, I shouldn't say who cares, but that's not going to affect me. I think that's something that has to be done, like the way Muhammad's wife was treated, the way that even the name of Imam Muhammad's been trademarked. To me, that's absolutely wrong. We have to be vocal about it, while still loving our brother and loving the family of our Imam. Imam Muhammad did not have two wives. This is a lie. And we cannot go along through life like everything's hunky dory. That's a lie on our leader. And you're saying, not only are you lying on him, you're saying that he lied. So you are assaulting, you are working against his character. And his character and who he was is the foundation of who we are, in a sense, in an important sense. So those things we got to address. But we should never distance ourselves. I remember Imam Muhammad Sadiq said one time, and it was profound. It like blew me away, because I wasn't never really like this. He was like, you know, I know we're doing battle right now. He says, I'm paraphrasing. He was like, I'm going to do battle until I got him on the ground at the point of submission. He said, then I'm going to reach my hand and help lift him back up. In other words, he was like, I'm fighting for the cause of truth. It ain't personal. Now, me, you know, in my mind, like, look, when you get him down, kick him. But I mean, that was, to me, that was Islamic way of looking at it. The same thing is true with what's going on. You know, we know the brother, what's his name? Earl Abdul. You know, you have people are looking for something. I actually think that people are, and I'm not trying to mess y'all show up, but this is just what's coming about.
No, come on with it. Come on,
exchange,
man.
Come on with it. Next level, man.
Right, it's exchange, huh?
Yeah, I don't think that we have to be able to disagree with the brothers without disassociating ourselves from them as brothers. Like people have talked to me about like that's another community. I don't accept that. And I have individuals, man, they like Terzo, he's the, I don't know if you all saw it, Cincinnati. He's Cincinnati, that's the Cincinnati man. I always liked him. And he did a project with another brother, Rashid, the Dynamic African American Soul. They did a play. It was like a play, like a stage. It wasn't, I don't know if a play is the best word, but it was a stage performance. Imam Mohammed said genius. You know, Imam Mohammed said what they did was genius. And those brothers, they'll unfriend me on Facebook. I'll never accept that until they come up and say, I like Iblis, we go way back. Until they start talking like that, I'll never not be those guys' friends. But you ain't gonna come in here and lie. You know what I'm saying? You do that with your own brothers. I can help. And I love it.
I mean, Rashad, I think it goes back to we have a question. We want to get to this brother's question, but I just want to make this point. I think that when Muhammad Ali, because we were watching the transition Savior's Day lecture, 1975, and there's a bunch of ministers that went and a bunch of introductions that went before the Imam on that particular day, and Muhammad Ali had said some strong words at that time. And he had said, and I'm paraphrasing what he said because it was very powerful. May Allah forgive me sins and grant the paradise. He said that if we disrespect Wallace, Imam Muhammad and his family, we basically disrespecting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
We basically disrespect our whole legacy. If we disrespecting Wallace, if we disrespecting the family of Muhammad, which is his family, in this case, you brought up the situation of how Siddiq Muhammad was treated, and that's a disrespect to the family. Basically, you're disrespecting leadership. And you bring up a point about this other subgroup, which I don't even want to give them play, but we're going to do that. You bring up the subgroup, and the subgroup is mentioning this term called wizard. I said, well, it takes a wizard to know another wizard. And my whole thing is that there is no respect for leadership. How are you going to come out and say that I'm ordained? This is not no priest class. It's not Catholicism. There's no priest class in Islam. Who chose you? Who picked you? What process? So there's no respect for leadership. I think another problem is no respect for leadership, and especially no respect for Imam Muhammad's leadership we may see as a minority group or a small groups of people, but there's this feeling that I get from some imams and some other people who are supporting some of these imams that they have no respect for Imam Muhammad's leadership. None.
Right. And I
we can't hear you, man. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to individual persons who make the claim. So if let's say me, I come out and say, well, look, Imam Muhammad told me that he wanted me to be the Grand Poobah. Okay. But let's say, I can get I'm quite certain I can get a following right now, today, if I did that. I wouldn't really, what I'm saying is, let's not blame those people as much as you should blame me. Like, I know that I'm lying, but a lot of times, I was speaking to someone recently, a sister, and I was saying, and I'm just saying, let's take the merciful route. Let's not take the unintelligent route. Let's not take the stupid route. Like, we're not going to be dumb and just accept anything like you're my brother. Therefore, you can get high in front of our children. No, that's not going to happen. But I'm going to kick you out. I'm going to kick you out my house, but you're still my brother. And when you get sober up, so I'm saying, let's take that approach. But with that particular person or persons, because he's not the only one. There's been that have come up and say, well, look, Imam Muhammad wanted me to do this. Those people, those are the ones that we take issue with directly. So that's why I reference some of the people who are actually doing the following. Like I said, I was telling someone recently.
But hold on. At a point, does it become an issue at a point of the followers? Like if this, like as we're bringing this issue to light, they have some obligation in the blame or in the.
They do. But what I've come to discover about people, and that's what I was going to say. It's that poem. I've said it in public before. It's from Islamic some Muslim poet. He said, don't mock the man who assumes that the mirage in the desert is a sea of water. You're just not as thirsty as he is. In other words, people, you learn a lot. It's easy to just write, oh, this person's crazy. Oh, this person's a fool. But when you examine people, this guy, oh, he's looking for a father figure. He never had his dad. This person embraced him. Or, this person lives in, Junkville, Mississippi. He has nothing going on. And he's just starving for life. You know what I mean? Or, like we talked about in the beginning, these people never really knew Imam Muhammad. They didn't have access. So now here comes some. So you got these, again, it's a case by case. I'm just very cautious about a broad brush condemnation. Like, I know people who the brother took money from. As a matter of fact, he was married into my wife's family. Like, my family, I know family people about to go to jail because of, so this is like something that I cannot, it's impossible to convince me in the other way. Because you talk about people like, this is like my actual wife. This is not like a story, or you say like, no, the feds came to my door asking about something. Yeah, he took me to the bank. He told me how to get the money. Like, this is an actual reality. So there's no way to convince me otherwise. But those people don't know that. Not all of them. And I think a lot of times, even if they do, I think a lot of times, it's like finding out your father was a pimp. Like on that, I don't know, I was watching this Tyler Perry movie, or what is it, Meet the Bride. That like rocks people's world. They just can't accept that, and they will contort and now this is not excusing them in the sense that they are not to blame at all. But at some point, you have to say, okay, they're not ready for this, and they have to take it to Allah. But I do believe we have to leave it in Allah's hands. But I do believe, like, when you see me commenting in the public, that's for the public record. That's all what that's for. I'm not trying to really. Most of the people in my community already know. Oh man, we know what's going on here. Da, da, da. But for me, I think that it's important for us to say on the public record, look, this is the case. This is not true. And those people, again, this one particular brother is not the only one. We've had a younger brother in the past say this, oh, man wanted me to do this. I should be the leader of the young people. Like, he's told me this. And I'm saying, brother, that's not correct. Da, da, da. And he told me, look, man, you don't even qualify to advise me. He told me that to my face. I said, man, this guy is crazy. So he and I, we've patched it up since. But I purposely worked against what he was doing. And what he was trying to do wasn't successful. And he blamed my lack of support. And I said, you damn right, just because I was never supported. I was working with this. I really will, because you're not going to. So I'm saying this now because these things need to be talked about. People talk about the conventions and stuff like that. Look, man, we cannot sweep these things under the rug. This is a part of our maturity as a community. Hey, man, we went about this the wrong way. We did this wrong, and we're still doing this wrong. So if we really love each other and we're really trying to serve Allah, let's see how we can fix all of this. That's what it's about. And we should be able to walk away as brothers and sisters, but we cannot. Like, I was arguing with I was arguing with somebody recently. They were like, well, I don't like to argue. I'm saying, well, to me, we're just confronting a tough issue. I'm not going to leave this situation. We're not going to be tight anymore. We just need to confront this serious issue.
Yes.
And, we may have to go lick our wounds after it's over. We'll be back. And I think when we start thinking like that, and then we'll be ready to tell a story the way the story should be told. And that's really the beginning of real progress as brothers and sisters. You know what I mean?
That's a level of maturity.
That goes right into Yusuf's point as well. Did you want to bring that up before?
Yeah. I want to bring up Brother Imam Yusuf Rios from the 3 Puerto Rico Imams. So shout out to that to those brothers. They're doing some amazing work as well. He says, we do not want to make our people our enemies, and this is what is being done in the Muslim community. He said there is no real concern for the well-being of others, which is true. But then he comes with his question. He said, we cannot continue to demonize our people. And also in demonizing others, we are pushing the NOI away. What will happen when the NOI leadership passes? What community is ready to receive the brothers and I will say sisters as well in that comment? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know, brother. He's my friend on Facebook, and I see he does a lot of endorsements. He's like the most darts in the year. So I know him from what I can read of him, but based upon his work online, I think he's very serious and concerned about human beings in the Muslim community. So I want to send the greetings to the brother Yusuf. I think that's a real good question. I don't think any community is ready to receive, to be honest with you. And I think that that's something that we really need to think about and consider, because we have had, as a matter of fact, we've had some members of the nation join our masjid because of things they were disappointed with. We had it in Milwaukee as well. We actually had a sister leave us and go to the nation, to be honest. That happened as well. So I think that should be our goal. I think that the matters of central importance, and I think he hinted at that in his question. The matters of central importance should be our goal, which is our own brotherhood, our own love for one another, and that'll attract people naturally. When those people reach a point, or a great amount of them, when they're looking for a way to go, they don't need to see big structures or nothing like that per se. They need to see human beauty. They need to see human beings like these people who love and care about one another. And I think that's one of our major challenges. People are going to be different in terms of how they understand things. You all heard Imam Muhammad say it. You all going different how you interpret, how you all read scripture, how you interpret Mr. Farah's esoteric language. But as a people, you're going to go all the way home. So I think we should make the matters of most importance, which is how we deal with each other's brothers and sisters, foremost. And I think that's what we're discussing. So just to answer that, I don't think anyone's ready right now. I think we can get ready with the work to become closer and have more concern, love, and respect for one another, and work together in any way we can in our communities.
Wow, man, this is good, man. This was a great exchange. This is a healthy exchange.
Thank you all, bro. Y'all are doing something real good, man. I see you active a lot, Bilal, online. So that's really good, man. I'm honored to be here. And everyone knows Mujahideen, New Freedom, New Freedom Universe. Did he freeze up?
I mean,
did his screen
I think Mujahideen is frozen right now, so we don't have to unfreeze that. But we thank you, Imam Rashad, for blessing us with your insights into these very important matters. I mean, these are some important concerns that we are having in our communities, and we have to have these dialogues. We have to have these exchanges in order really to get a feel for the pulse, but more so what I call the temperature check. How we check the temperature when we go for the weather, we go outside. Well, we really checking the temperature in our communities and our masajids and our schools, our centers of institution. What is their temperature like? So that's what we really want to answer. And it's gonna some, like you said, some is gonna differ for locale, but a lot of it is going to be similar in nature that we can work upon together. I think that these exchanges are healthy, and we have to talk about it. We can't leave everything out just in the air and unsolved. There's going to be some taboo topics that we need to talk about. You mentioned the Dope Muslima podcast. She talks about a lot of issues that, generally they're not being talked about in these places. Mujahideen's back. You got Mujahideen back. I really do think that we're in a new time, we're in a new place, a new space. We have a great opportunity because of COVID. Even though, unfortunately, COVID has taken a lot of our pioneers, a lot of young people have died. Unfortunately, but Allah knows best. May Allah bless them with Jannatul Firdaus, forgiving their sins, granted their paradise. But it has blessed us, allowed us to do a lot of internal reflection. During the month of Ramadan, we was allowed to bless with that. being kind of being in our caves, if you would, or our own spaces. And I think now we're looking at the digital space, to have our exchanges for the time being until we can meet in the physical. And we want to continue these spaces because the work still has to get done, even despite the circumstances that we're in. So, but Mujahideen, you have any closing statement? Oh, you're frozen again. You're frozen again on me. Yeah, make him out separation. But anyway, Imam Rashad, if you could close us out in dua, send us in a prayer, and leave us with an insight. Well, leave us with your closing remark, and then if you can close us out with a dua, please.
Well, just for closing remarks, I would just thank you for having me. I enjoyed the exchange, and again, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier in terms of us working together. We have to stay locked at the hip, joined at the hip, and see to it that we all can be successful. So inshallah, I pray Allah will make us successful in that regard. So yeah, we can close out. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ameen. So thank you all for tuning in for New Freedom Exchange. Like the page, share the page. Appreciate Imam Rashad for coming on. Tomorrow we will be back at 3 o'clock for the 90-year roundtable academic discussion. Please share New Freedom Exchange, this live stream, and like us on Facebook. And with that being said, I thank you all for tuning in to this edition, and we hope to see you all soon. May the Most High, the Creator, bless you all with a great day and weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, different, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, were fighting each other and carrying on and weakening their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know, as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only of the descendants of the black people of Africa, from Islam, coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.